Our sponsors for this episode are Harder Custom Welding. Looking for quality welding with a personal touch? Harder Custom Welding specializes in steel fabrication and repair of all kinds. From fencing and livestock systems to custom lawn and garden decor, they bring craftsmanship and experience to every job. No job is too small. From simple fixes to complex builds, they're here to help. Based out of Newton, Kansas, mobile welding services are available to meet a wide range of needs. You can give them a call at 316-217-3819 to bring your project to life. Also, visit them on Facebook at Harder Custom Welding, Harder Custom Welding. Shamrock Car Wash. Shamrock Car Wash has 3 convenient locations in Newton, Wichita, and Mays. They were also voted Best Car Wash in Harvey County for 2024. Shamrock Car Wash offers your traditional hands-on wash bays, but also touts an in-bay touch-free wash and dry for an effortless clean. Make sure to look them up and follow them on Facebook at Shamrock Car Wash. That's Shamrock Car Wash, or you can visit them online at theshamrockcarwash.com. That's theshamrockcarwash.com. The Newton Kansan is Newton's longest-running local newspaper covering all the stories, people, places, and things happening in our community. Chad Fry, the Kansan guy, editor of the Kansan, works diligently to ensure integrity, accuracy, and unbiased news is delivered to your doorstep 3 times a week for an unbeatable price. You can also sign up for online-only access for around $7 a month. That's 12 online papers a month for only $7. If you've not subscribed, it's time you do. Visit them in their office at 517 North Main Street. That's 517 North Main Street in Newton. Online at thekansan.com. That's thekansan.com. Or give them a call at 316-283-1500. That's 316-283-1500. Support local journalism, support the Kansan. Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How was your guys' week this week? Andy, you got to go first.
Man, it's been really good. Memorial Day, or Labor Day, family time this weekend. I've been on the go, so it was nice to get 2 or 3 days with the family, and we just stuck around the house together and did chores together around here and watched movies together, and we don't do that too often. And I know, seasons are coming, soccer games, school just started. So this was kind of like the calm before the storm, the holiday season. So things are good. The week's been good, and I've been moving around, doing my thing.
We missed you, Andy. I just got to say we missed you.
I actually missed you guys, too. I've watched every episode.
Chad, week?
Over. On to a new one. Yeah. That's the week, right? That's the week.
Well, we talked last week about Chad's father passing, and I was able to get there to the service, and I just got to say it was very good. I appreciated being able to hear some about his life and just celebrate his life. I talked with some people there, and of course everybody wants to kind of know who you know or how what brought you here. And I made the comment, I never had the privilege of meeting Frenchy Fry, but I know Chad, and Chad's a good friend of mine, and I'm here for Chad.
And that's what funerals are for. I mean, straight up. Funerals aren't for the person that's dead and gone. Funerals are for the family and the friends. It's the opportunity to say goodbye in a united way. And by the way, that's not a plug for the United Way.
But it could be.
Love the organization. But no, that's what funerals are for. It's what visitations are for, folks. It's not for the visitation and the funeral wasn't for my dad, even though it was all about my dad. And we spent a lot of time talking about what my dad would want for a funeral. But it's for the family. And it's for the friends. And, I saw family that I haven't seen in 40 years.
Wow.
So that was a gift. That was a gift. So if you were like Lance was, if you were there and you thought maybe the attitude was a little jovial, that's why. Yeah. I mean, dude. Yeah.
Well, it goes back to the celebration of life and what we talked about last
exactly
week.
Right.
If our faith brings us to the understanding that once we depart from this earth and our body no longer houses our spirit and our soul, that then we go to a place where we'll be reunited with them once again.
Yep.
Right? Period. So I got to say something about funerals. I'm not a big funeral goer. Sometimes you have to drag me kicking and screaming into a funeral because I just don't. I think the main thing that I took away from just a general 10,000-foot view of attending your dad's funeral is just a reminder of my own mortality. And that when my life is done, that I want for people to look at my life. I mean, obviously, I won't look back on my life because my life will be done here on earth. But the idea that, make every moment count. Make every moment count. Be the best you that you can possibly be, not only to yourself, to your immediate family, to your extended family, and just hearing some about the ways that your dad went out of his way, to be able to, I call it love on people, respect people, love people, be involved, the whole thing. So remember, everybody, our time here is very short. It's very limited, and as you get older, what you'll find is the days go quicker. And don't get to that point and look back and have regrets. Make sure that you live every day to its fullest. And then for me, I wanted to talk about what I did this week. I went into KidLyn Couture. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but KidLyn Couture is a gently used child's clothing store and other things. There's shoes
Where
and stuff
at?
like that. It's at 301 North Meridian, Suite D. So it's kind of out of the way. If I know
exactly where that is,
Newton
actually.
area that you're going down Meridian, there's like a little strip mall right there, and it's kind of tucked away in there.
Used to be a barber shop in there.
Yes, in one of the suites. Yes, and this one's there too. So if you go there, you'll be able to just know that you find it or whatever. But it's KidLyn Couture, and I had saw some of their posts on Facebook. It's getting a little cooler. I'm always looking for a deal when it comes to kids' clothes because by about the time you buy them, they wear them once or twice. They're already grown out of them. So I don't want to go spend a bunch of money. Plus, with my other two kids, I did a lot of buying clothes, getting clothes, and then they never wore the clothes. So then you have a brand, you still got stuff basically with the tags on it, and they weren't worn. Right? So it's like, well, what do you do with these? Well, normally you give them away or something like that. And I do believe that this place takes donations and whatnot of gently used clothes and stuff. So went in there and talked with Kimberly, who was the person that runs the place, and just said, I'm just here to look around. I've seen you guys on Facebook, wanted to see what you had in here. And they weren't kidding. They have a lot of really good gently used, in some cases I don't think ever used clothes. And so after looking for a little bit, I was able to get Timothy some winter wear, if you want to call it that. So make sure and get out there to KidLyn Couture and talk to Kimberly and fam, because I know it's a family oriented company, and just see if by chance there's some kid clothes out there that will work for your little ones as fast as they grow and run through clothes, and be able to save $1 doing it. So that was unsolicited, by the way. Good to talk to you, Kimberly. Really enjoyed KidLyn Couture. Get out there to 301 North Meridian Road, Suite D, here in Newton. All right, Chad, what do we got in the cans, my man?
Well, they're still trying to figure out where the gas is coming from.
Oh, man.
Over in the Fox Ridge housing development. And waiting for some test results to come back. This is as of yesterday. They're still waiting for test results to come back. And there's multiple tests being run by multiple individuals to try and figure out what in the world is going on over there. However, in 1888.
Oh no, we're going back into the Kansan archives. Deep Kansan archives.
The Evening Kansan Republican reported that there were a few people who thought there might be enough natural gas underneath the city to fuel the city. And they drilled test wells, some on the east side, some on the west side. And over on the west side, they found out that it had to go through salt and water and a whole bunch of other stuff and so it wasn't really viable to use. And then they capped up all those wells. So this is not the first time natural gas has appeared in Newton.
But it's been a minute. I mean, damn near 150 years.
Well, yeah.
Did we strike gold?
Yeah, we did.
It's like, are we going to see like
That would be great, wouldn't it?
A mist of fume coming out.
the water bill will go down?
Yes,
There you
especially
go.
if we have our own natural gas utility.
Let's start a natural
Let's
gas
capitalize
utility
on this.
There you go. Bring
Yes.
industry in. Give
Yes.
out 10-year abatements for natural gas.
Hey, okay, so
Recruit the world.
So and I knew the Kansan would most likely report on that. I was a little taken back. I mean, your mind starts running and you start asking, well, how's this happening, right? So it was a golf course.
Correct.
And then now it's been developed into a housing development, which means there's
It's
a lot
being
of
developed.
but there's a lot. I mean, you can drive by
Yeah.
there and it's
They've worked on the eastern half. There's still another the western half
so that's going to double in
to
size.
come. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
They're building a small city out there.
See,
folks.
I looked at it and I thought to myself,
I mean, they're building. They're building as many housing units as exist in like Heston over the course of this thing. Now that's going to include some apartment buildings and some other stuff that has yet to be built. But I mean, it is huge. Huge.
So with all that earth moving and digging and moving around, is it possible that we're really dealing with a natural gas pocket of some kind? See,
Nobody knows.
I'm thinking somebody busted a pipeline.
what
Well,
I'm
that should be easy to
Well, at this time, that there's no evidence that it is a busted pipeline
because
of any kind.
yeah, for real, that would be like your first
So
point of
they've-
contact, right?
100%.
There'd be
They've
a major line
Yep.
that would run under there, and then they would go and they would follow the major line to see if by chance there was any kind of a leak or whether it wasn't holding or retaining pressure.
Here's the thing too that people need to remember on natural gas. When you smell it, it smells like rotten eggs. Us humans are adding that to it
Yes.
because in its natural state,
Odorless.
unprocessed, it is odorless.
Yeah.
So, I don't even know how they found this because it wasn't somebody out in their backyard going, "Oh, I smell natural gas."
Interesting.
That's not what's going. I was out there today. You smell nothing.
Then how did they figure this out?
I don't know. I don't
We have
know.
a decent fire marshal.
Yeah, maybe it's a
well,
fire
yeah.
marshal that comes out there and he's like, I know what natural gas smells like without the odor, and I'm here to
with the
tell
egg
you.
smell?
Yeah, without it. Without it, I can smell it. I can see it
So-
seeping through the ground,
Yeah.
We're giving you a lot of credit.
So
though.
Kansas Gas has been they tested all their lines, pressure tested all their lines, and didn't find anything there.
Interesting.
And they're one of them that has taken some samples to chemically test this stuff to try and figure out where it's coming from. And until they figure out where it's coming from, they can't figure out what to do about it.
The aliens.
What it
Yeah, it
is Newton, Kansas struck gas gold. And from here on out, we're not going to have a worry in the world. You know that, right?
Sure.
Wouldn't that be crazy, though, to come along and realize, hey, this is coming from a pocket that's got plenty of gas or natural gas that we're going to cap. And then... Well, then becomes whose is it, and how do they manage that? And I mean,
the land?
are we going to see? Are we going to? I guess knowing what I know now, just being armed with the information that you provided. I'm optimistic and second intrigued, and really want to see how this comes out. What's the result of that?
So they evacuated 11 families?
They didn't have to evacuate,
Well,
right?
they
From what I
have-
understand.
They asked. I believe it was 17 different locations to evacuate, and some have, and some haven't. And I got all the numbers on that coming in tomorrow's edition of the Thursday edition of the Kansan.
So then, Chad, I'm going to pick your brain a little bit more. And maybe this is a question I'm just leaving you in a situation that you might not know the answer to. But then the next thing that happens with my mind is, well, if I have to be evicted from my home because of something like this, then who pays for my relocation? Is that my homeowner's insurance? Is that
I have no idea.
the developer? Is it the developer because now it's not the gas company? Because of course we're sitting here saying that it's not because the gas company. So I mean, I don't know. I think all sides of it. So maybe people are not as intrigued as I am about the situation. But I'm looking forward to what you're going to write about.
Well, I think those kinds of things will come out in the wash when we start talking about mediation and how this is going to get dealt with. So we'll find out over time. First things first, find out where it's coming from, because nothing else can move forward until that happens. And, people were freaking out. That's a good word for it. People were freaking out the other day because the governor signed a disaster declaration. Yes, that sounds really bad, but the real deal here is that she signed a piece of paper to open up the doors for state agencies to assist in figuring out what the heck is going on out there.
And still to this point, we have no concrete.
No one believes there's anybody in any super real danger here. That's why the evacuation was voluntary, not forced. Okay. If they thought people were in real danger, they'd have gotten them out of there, and it wouldn't have been, hey, we'd like it if you just go, drive up to the Holiday Inn and we'll figure out some financial assistance for you to do so. That's not the way that works when there's a super real danger. It's people knocking on your door saying you got to go.
Well, you got to do this for me, Chad. When you do the headline on it, please put on there, if you haven't done it already, did Newton hit gas gold?
You're too late.
Well, no.
You're too late.
What's the headline? Give me the headline. Come on. It's gotta be catchy.
I don't know. It's pretty innocuous. To be honest
man,
with
you gotta have the headliner. You know that. It's gotta be
real water
half the
rates
page.
drop.
Yeah. Everything goes back to that. I love it.
There you go.
You have eyeballs all over that paper.
Yes.
People be buying them.
Sell a lot, wouldn't I?
It's all about the captured headline.
That's a nice clickbait headline right there.
Okay, so thing, I believe it was the most recent Kansan that I'm interested. I want to pick your brain about. County Prosecutor's Office staffing issues persist. I think, honestly, they've had an open position for assistant prosecuting attorney for a while now.
Yeah, going on 2 or 3 years now.
And it's not because they're not interviewing qualified candidates, because I think that the mentality there would be, hey, if you're coming out of law school, and I'm not 100% sure with this, right? But if you're coming out of law school and you know that just prosecutors' offices don't generally pay as much as what somebody could do in their own private practice, that still, I mean, you take into consideration, if you get hired on in a private practice, and you got student, or I mean, at the prosecutor's office, and you have student loan debt. I may be wrong, but I'm going to say this, so correct me if I'm wrong. But after 10 years of service, because you're serving the public, there's a potential for them to forgive your student loan debt. So there might be a benefit for that, right, for somebody. But I just, and I don't know. I don't know the pays of the attorneys, but I know we're in a crisis when it comes to attorneys and how many are being put out and how many are retiring. And
well, Harvey County is not paying very well for the attorney's office. There's just no two ways about it.
Has Heather figured the county?
She's gone to the county and,
asked for more funding for an increase in pay.
She has done that repeatedly. Her timing sucks with this every time. I'm just, Heather, I love you, but you have got to learn to time things a little better, because the time to do it is not the meeting before or the day before the public hearing for the budget. It was several months ago.
Okay, but now I got a question. I know you are a connoisseur of archive knowledge of Newton, okay? So I got to pose the question. Because this is something that's taken place over a while, and I can't recall off the top of my head, but did that take place at one point in time? This conversation is nothing new, so they've got to know that even though she's coming and delivering it at a later time, that the request is still the same.
She, like every department head, turns in a budget to be evaluated. And then the budget process has gone through. Now, depending on departments, depending on when people sit down to do the work, we're talking like May that the budget proposals are getting thrown in. And, the budget isn't passed until September. So it's back in May that if you think you're going to need a dramatic increase, and what she's talking about now is a fairly dramatic increase. And see, it's not just for one person either, because if you're gonna turn around and pay the fresh out of law school kid more than the people you've got that have been here for 3 or 4 years, that's a problem. So it's gonna have, you gotta be budgeting in such a way everybody's gonna get something here, and that needs to happen in May, and you need to be, again, I love her, but you got to be thinking ahead. And then it's kind of like making sausage. Her budget is just one ingredient, because you're going to have a budget from the clerk, you're going to have a budget from the treasurer, you're going to have a budget from the appraiser, you're going to have road and bridge, you're going to have all the supplementals, you're going to have, you got them all coming in. And then you have to put them all together. And administration, which also creates its own small budget, administration's in there, and administration then turns around and creates a budget proposal, and that goes to the county clerk or county commission, and the county commission spends 2 to 3 months reviewing the proposed budget. They passed their final budget yesterday, and it does contain a mill levy increase of 0.77 something.
So not quite a mill.
No. The proposed budget was 1.8 mil. This one that they passed is 0.77, and it levies less taxes than the proposed budget, though more than last year. So there's a time and a place. Now, the reason this is all going on, okay, we had a decision that was made at the state level that is having ripple effects throughout our county government. And that decision was to add another judge to the district court. And that decision was made at the state level without thinking about what that's going to mean for expenses at the local level.
But that comes back to a formula now. And I was going to say this. If there is data to show that the amount of, we'll call it caseload, that a judge has to consistently oversee, then it's not probably something that's just done willy-nilly. I mean, at the state level, they're not like, let's go put a judge over here and cost ourselves more money. I'm assuming with the way the state of Kansas does what they do, that there was an overwhelming need to ensure, because
well, yeah, I mean, life would be
due process, right?
Life would be easier if the people of Newton would commit less crime. Life would be a heck of a lot for a whole lot of people. It'd be easier for our police department. It'd be easier for our sheriff's department. It'd be easier for the district court, and it would be easier for us as taxpayers if we would just wrap ourselves around the idea that we need to commit less crime. And as flippant as that is, dude, yeah. I mean,
it's not.
Come on, guys!
It's not happening. It's increasing.
Yeah, it's always increasing.
Well, I have something funny for you. Okay,
enough.
Not to be a negative Nancy, people can say whatever they want about this, and I'm pro Newton. I'm pro Harvey County. I believe that Newton is a great place to work, live, and play. I believe that Harvey County, cumulatively of all the communities, has something for everyone, depending upon what socioeconomic range you're in. I think we're firing on all cylinders. I really believe that. Okay, we've got small communities that you can move to. You've got Heston, which is a great community. You've got Newton, which is a great community. I'm pro, right? But somebody had mentioned to me that we were in Newton, like they had started to see kind of a change, and not in a good way, okay? And so to combat that, I wanted to do a little bit of research because they threw out some statistics to say that Newton has a higher than national average for certain crimes and everything. And although, we're not dealing with what's going on in Wichita right now, which is murder every day. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's like, oh my goodness, what's going on here? But I found it interesting because the very first thing that generated was said that Newton is a safe place to live, and I started looking at the source, and it was put out by the city government. And then you start digging a little bit, and you start looking into statistics and census and things like that, and it's like, well, I guess that's subjective. So anyway, Andy. Okay, before I want to put that on hold. I was going to ask you about the bond situation and the potential for the mill levy to increase there. We talked last week about how some people showed up to the city commission meeting, and even though I don't believe that they raised their mill, they're capturing the majority of the property valuation increase, etc., because there's all this formula. And we're going to talk about how that works. So we need to make sure, don't let me forget, and spend a little bit of time on these formulas and how these take place, just in an effort to educate those listeners which are trying to understand how the sauce is made, right? So I want to do that, and I want to capture that when it comes to the school board and the potential for there to be a bond increase. But before we move on from the Kansan, I know that I call it the old Dillions building, but it's where Dollar General used to be, Mike Lewis Fitness, and it's been this eyesore for a very, very long time. It's been years in the making, but they have accepted a bid to have the building raised, which for those of you that might not understand what being raised is, it's demolished. And then from there, the railroad is going to reimburse the city for the excavation of whatever toxic soil there is and replace that, but we don't even know what that's going to look like yet. So anything that I didn't say that you could read a Kansan and that would cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
They finally got it done.
Okay.
This has been 10 or 11 years in the making.
It's been a minute.
Yeah,
it's been a minute,
and the biggest holdup has been that deal with the railroad,
lawyering on the other side.
Yeah.
Which they're responsible for cleaning up their own mess, right? So, but to make the railroad do whatever you want them to do in a timely manner, I mean, they're the big hog.
The railroad moves on its own time.
Yeah, and you're not gonna make them move.
We experienced something similar when we wanted to build another water tank there on First Street. They actually got rid of one, but they built two.
Yeah.
Okay, and they wanted that second tank was going to be on railroad property. It took a while to get that dealt with.
Yeah.
So the railroad moves slow.
Okay.
That's just the way it is.
And they move.
They do a great job hauling freight, man.
Yes, and even though there's a switch track, right? Basically in the city of limits of Newton, and we all have to endure that on a regular basis.
Boy, they had Main Street shut down for the better part of 45 minutes the other day.
I was inconvenienced by that myself. I got to tell you, there's no end to the people that say that we should just make the railroad build a bridge over the top of their railroad.
Never gonna
go
happen.
Under, go over. Yeah, I don't. It's just
never gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost way too much money. We had a chance back in the 60s for that to happen, and you know what happened? All the downtown businesses came flipping unglued because of what it was going to look like right out their front window. And how hard it would be to get and how hard it would be to get people to actually stop at their business. So ain't gonna happen. Just saying, ain't gonna happen.
Okay, last thing in the Kansan, unless you got something else you want to cover. One thing that I love, I really do, and I wait for every year is the Best of Newton. right?
Oh, the best of the best.
Best of the best. And
that's actually for Harvey County, but yes, best of the best.
Okay, so these, just touch on that a little bit about why you all do that and what that entails. I'm sure most people that know about it already know, but just to reiterate that, I saw in the Kansan that they wanted to nominate now, right?
Yes.
And then you could nominate your favorite local business from August 18th through August 31st. Well, that date's been closed.
Right. The voting on that will come next.
Okay.
There's a round of actual voting that will happen at thekansan.com.
Okay.
And then usually those winners are announced along about December. And it really is just a chance for businesses to get honored as being picked by the populace as the best at what they do.
So if you got nominated, make sure you got your troops rallied up.
That is correct.
Yeah.
If you get nominated, get your people together.
Vote.
And get them to vote.
Vote. Yeah, getting people to vote. That's interesting. And speaking of voting, and speaking of upcoming elections, i.e. Andy, I'm going to actually interview Andy. So I've already told him I'm going to break his arm to get him out here so I can interview him because...
it's a long trip for him, you know.
But and here's what we're gonna do. As soon as we wrap up our series on addiction, I've got 2 more interviews to go with on that. People have been very receptive to that. In fact, the last interview that we did with Jason to talk about how alcoholism became his go-to. Alcohol became his go-to at a very young age. We talked about Gateway. We talked about all these things and how. Just watch those. I'm not gonna go rehash that. Just it's a series that's going on, and that was a very well watched podcast. So people are catching on to this conversation. I think I've had. I can't even count the amount of people that have reached out and just said thank you. Want to tell me about the how their loved one is overcoming addiction and recovery, or how they lost someone. I know we just continue to lose people. I brought this out here and wanted to cover this real quick, and I hope I'm not jumping around too much. But just remember this, folks. Every 7 minutes, 80,000 people died of drug overdose in 2024. That's 80,000 people. Synthetic opioids such as fentanyl cost 48,000 plus lives. Psychostimulants such as methamphetamine cost 30,000. Polysubstance use is the combining of multiple drugs at once, or one drug is laced with another, such as fentanyl, and that's where we hear fentanyl poisoning. Is people that are not going out to partake in fentanyl and overdosing, they are partaking in another substance that's been laced with fentanyl, and therefore it's called polysubstance use, and they're losing their life due to fentanyl poisoning. So every 7 minutes, remember that, every 7 minutes, people need help. And then one thing I saw in the Kansan before we move on to our big topic today, which is trying to pick through all of the intricacies, I'll use that word, of budgets and mill levies and how the sauce is made. We just want to congratulate NHS boys soccer coach Scott Jantz. 200 wins. 200 wins. Are you going to have something more in the paper about that?
Oh, I'm sure Mark did quite a bit with that. And speaking of Mark will be honored. September 5th is the first Newton High School home football game. We're going to play Mays. I won't comment to the outcome, but they're going to induct 2 new members of the Newton High School Hall of Fame that night. And one is a wrestler by the last name of Metzler, 3-time state champion. Probably could have been 4 if he wasn't too small his freshman year. And the other is going to be Newton Kansan sports writer and editor, Mark Schnabel.
Nice.
That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
He deserves that recognition. He does a great job. I know there's a lot of
40
people
years.
that take the Kansan just because of the sports. Like
40 years doing it.
Like Mark does a phenomenal job.
Yes, he does.
And if you are interested in anything sports related, any statistics sports related for pretty much all of Harvey County, and even sometimes outside of Harvey County, the Kansan is what you need to be reading and subscribe to. Okay, so school bond, how the sauce is made. I wanted to talk with and have Andy here to be able to talk about this too, because right now I see something brewing that's making me uneasy, and it's that because of property evaluation increases, because taxes are going up at the county level, because, we just obviously they voted on that, but the assumption was that was going to be the case because of what they said in the past or whatever. Cities are capturing these mill levy increases or the property evaluation increase without. So basically, to the average Joe or Jan, okay, they are paying more in taxes. Period. There's an argument to be made for that. One way or the other, however you cut the cookie or whatever we go into in our conversation here, people are paying more taxes. Well, the school is needing to pass a bond issue in order to do some much needed infrastructure improvements, which we can't really get away from, arguably. How is that shaping up for you all, Andy? I mean, you personally, how is that shaping up?
It's tough. I mean, there's a lot there. This is the school system's third go-round at trying to bring forth a bond. And there's so much behind the last two, depending on what group of people you listen to, on why that wasn't successful, the politics behind those things. Is it a good thing we didn't do some of those back then because of some of the plans and how things have changed and morphed and looking at things differently? So you're never going to know those things. Crying over spilled milk doesn't matter. It's like, what did we do looking forward? Unfortunately, timing really is terrible right now with what we've got going on. It's just not a surprise to me, frankly. I think there may be some school board members that aren't maybe seeing it eyes wide open. It's going to be a challenge, but I think it's necessary, and most people that I'm sitting down with and having conversations with understand that they don't like it, but they understand it. And there's a committee going on right now that's still working out the details, so we can come to the community with details. Matter of fact, they met last night. I'll look forward to hearing about where that's going and what influences took that conversation, which way it goes. Because there's a lot being talked about. And those are big ticket items that need to be discussed. And there's other shifts going on in our communities where we've partnered up with, let's just say, Ember Hope. And depending on how they choose to do what they do, that could change directions. And you just see that they're changing their model. And they just released something here recently about how they're restructuring what they're doing and what does that mean for the education piece of what we do out there. And that's more expense, more thinking through. We do have that building out in Walton. And there's a lot to think through that. But frankly, we don't have the income to expand another building. So what does that look like? We also don't have the income to build a new building. So what does that look like? There's just a lot going on. So I know we'll figure it out. I'm going to wait until I get the download of what this committee and this group that was put together, what they bring to the table, and I'll ask questions and sift through that and push back on some of it, embrace some of it, just go through my process. And I don't have all that information quite yet. I'm trusting that group is going through their processes and procedures to make sure that they're working through a lot of the stuff that I don't have to. Yes, I will have to ask questions. I might have some nuance and some feedback that maybe wasn't thought about. But normally those groups do a good job about seeing a lot of angles, and you would have to be super conceited to think that you could add much more than what a group of 15 or 20 people could add, right? Whatever that looks like. So I'm just trusting that process is going to work itself out, and I'm going to come to sell that bond to the community. But I also have to be confident in what I'm selling, and I don't know what that looks like yet. I have some ideas because I've been thinking through this for 3.5, 4 years. And I've seen all these bonds come through, I was on some of those committees way back when, so I have some information. I've talked to some school board members that were around at that time. I have those downloads and that feedback. But at the end of the day, nothing matters right now until that hits my hands. For me to give good feedback, I need to know where the group's at, or what they bring to the table, why, what's the rationale of that, and then see what the community wants to do with that information. Because I think one of the biggest complaints is, how are you going to spend it? People want to know that, and they deserve that, including me, because I'm not just a school board member. I live here. I'm a taxpayer. I have kids going to school here. And even when my kids aren't going to school here, when they're done, I'm going to have a responsibility to the education system that I want to be the best in the world, because a lot of those people will feed my companies and the community that my kids will live in for decades to come.
Well, and Chad says this and has multiple times, and you know, until you said it the way you said it, you know, truth sticks out in a person's mind, and they can't unsee it, right? It's same with a lie. A lie comes up. Well, it's not too long before you realize that whatever that lie is doesn't back up what it is that is actually transpiring. Therefore, there's the ability to see truth. But as Chad said, you know, we're seeing, and I truly believe this, and I'm paraphrasing this a little bit because Chad came at it differently, but what you say is true. We're seeing a group and generation of people that, because the system already fed their kids through, and they paid taxes while their kids were there, and they felt like everybody should contribute to paying for the taxes to ensure that their child has an education. Now, all of a sudden, those same people want to say, well, my kids don't go to school there. My kids are done graduated and moved on. Why am I having to pay taxes for this? You know? So speaking of taxes, okay, I think when I was talking last week and said we would talk some about this week when it comes to mill levy and property valuation increase, and I kept thinking, just keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. So your largest taxing agencies that you have in your own community are your city, county, and school.
Correct.
Okay? So from there, they all have a specific mill levy, which is nothing more than a formula to be able to capture revenue. It goes without saying that if Newton has a mill levy of 76, that the amount of revenue that they capture, or money that they capture at that mill, is not the same as another community. So if someone says, well, look at, we'll just give an example, Hutchinson. Hutchinson's mill levy is not as high as Newton's mill levy, but one mill in Hutchinson captures more money or revenue that the government entity is able to operate off of than, say, Newton. So it's not comparing apples to apples.
Correct.
Okay.
And that is because I'm gonna beat this horse until it's dead and gone. A mill levy, a mill, it is a percentage
Yes.
of the assessed evaluation.
Yes.
And that's not only of your individual home, but everybody.
Yeah. So your individual home.
So when a community, and I'm just going to throw numbers out there, I'm just as examples.
Keep it small and round.
These are not accurate numbers. But when you have when you've got a community like you mentioned, Hutchinson, their assessed evaluation for residential property can be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Newton's in like 50 million. So when they levy 1 mil, they're going to get, for example, $200,000. When Newton levies 1 mil, they're going to get $100,000.
Yes. And then each community is different. Okay. Continuing on with this monologue, if I say this.
Hold on.
That's why you shouldn't compare the mill levies.
So are you saying that? Yeah, come on with it. I know there's something.
I was going to get in trouble.
You should be you should be taking a look at total budget size as opposed to and juxtaposing that to population. There you go.
Okay, so then enters in property valuation increases.
Yes.
Property valuation increases have
I'm
nothing
still
to
trying
do.
to get to that first layer of cake, bro.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
No, I'm just joking. Go
Rewind it, replay it. Okay. And I'm not, and see, here's this. I'm learning through all this too. And I've oftentimes said, as many people think that education is fruitless and pointless, that if I did not have a master's in public administration, that I would not be able to understand this in its totality. It's not easy, okay? So we want to keep it basic, which revolves back to my communication education, which then helps me understand that, well, we can't just throw all of this out there because you'll see glazed eyes. And it's nothing against anybody. It's like a doctor trying to tell you.
It's not their world.
Yeah, it's not their world.
A lot of people don't choose to unpack it.
Yeah, and I go for this. I've constantly said, to tie this in too, is I would not want an attorney to operate on me any more than I would want a doctor to represent me in court. So not all educations are the same, and there's a point to getting an education, especially in a specified field, and then a higher education, which puts you in a master's level. And I'm not toting myself as all-knowing Lance about this, economic development guru, but it's this I'm able to understand more based upon my education that I don't expect somebody who hasn't had the same education to understand. You were going to say something, Andy?
Well, yeah, that's why having emotion, there's people that play off of that. No, a lot of people don't understand this. For instance, having a state representative running over water rates. I mean, that's just plain out manipulation, ridiculousness. But so many people do not understand, and people know that. And these are people that are going to the voting booths. So I think it's really important to make sure you're asking questions. And it's easy to get reactive, but it's okay to have all those feelings and stuff. But make sure you drill down and you start talking or asking the right questions to try to understand versus just lashing out and pissing on people that are trying really hard to do good.
Yeah. Okay. Enter in to continue on with this, and I agree with what you're saying 100%. Property valuation increases. Property valuation increases are determined from the county. There was something that was a little debacle, we'll call it, at the state level, and they believed that there were not appropriate formulas, or that, however we would explain that some property valuations in certain communities and counties were not appropriately reflecting the actual value. So then Harvey County, obviously one of these communities, so we start seeing this bump up, okay? So even though your mill levy stays the same, right? Let's say that Newton is 76, but what they could levy, like Chad said, which was a formula, then it's a percentage of the property valuation. If the property valuation goes up, even though the mill levy stays the same, which means they are only wanting to capture X amount of percent of the total cost of evaluation, or the total evaluation monies, so before I lose my train of thought here, then your individual taxes go up, because the amount that is captured through that mill is determined based on the property valuation. Therefore, the property valuation went up without the mill going up. Therefore, it does. Now,
let me break that down.
Am I on the right track?
You're on the right track.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm explaining.
But I'm
gonna
go super practical. Okay.
So I'm getting into
uber practical to try and help people understand how this works.
Whole numbers.
So let's just say that right now, as we speak, your house is $100,000 house.
Okay.
And that's the assessed, or that's the value of your home today, and that's what you're being taxed on today. 5 mils, because of how the whole mathematical formula works out to be, 5 mils means that you will pay $57.50 of property tax for that year. Remember that number, $57.50. And your house is worth $100,000 right now. when the county does its assessments, we're just going to say that your house is going to go up by 5%. Okay? Next year, your tax, if they leave it at 5 mils, will be $60.37. So even though the mill levy didn't go anywhere, your appraisal did.
Yes.
So you're going to pay more.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Now.
So those are very real brass tacks numbers.
Yes. And then, okay, to consider, like we said in the beginning, you're talking about one entity.
And if they add a mill to it, then you're going up even more.
Yes.
I see where you're rolling with this cart.
Okay, so that's just one entity. That doesn't include the 3 entities.
Correct.
So therefore, all of these entities, with whatever standardized mill levy they're levying, okay, it's not play on words, but the county is then going to capture more money, the school is going to capture more money, and the city is going to capture more money. So all of a sudden, here we are where, okay, my evaluation went up, so it's not just that $60, right? Or it's not just the $57.50.
Right, it's for that one entity.
It's for that one entity, but then you've got to times that by 3.
Correct.
Right? So then from there, and I've got to say, people do have an argument. So to the audience, what we do with those finances are strongly based upon who you elect, because they set the policy, they set the budget, right? So if for instance, in the case of the city, I heard people up there, some people that are truly concerned about what is going on in our community, pose the question, if the evaluation goes up, even though the mill stays the same and you're capturing more revenue, i.e. more taxes, then why aren't you lowering the mill levy to decrease the amount of taxes that you're taking in based upon the evaluation increase? That's a good argument. Okay, that's an argument that can be made. It's the commission that then decides, or your school board, or your county commission, student council, whatever their name is, of that specific entity. In our case, we're going to call it 3, the 373, the Harvey County Commission in the city. Then from there, what you do with that increase. Now, at the same time, okay, there's these other extenuating factors that are taking place that we have no control over, which talks about the fact that we need to pay our law enforcement more. We need to pay our fire and EMS more. We've got a fire truck that cost $500,000 to replace 5 years ago. But now when we go to replace that same fire truck or another fire truck in the squad, now it's $650,000. So to say that, and my point is this, although I, even myself, have likened public financing or public entities to be held to the same standard as my household budget and income, if I make X amount of dollars every year, inflation goes up, then I have to cut costs because I'm stuck at this one level. Correct. But when we're talking about the public good and these entities like the school, the city, the county, and there is a need, an absolute need to maintain these services or to maintain infrastructure, such as what we're dealing with the school board and the school system and our aging infrastructure and what we need to do with our schools, you have to figure out the happy medium there. And we've got to stop looking at those entities as the individual good versus the public good. And I take it back to this, and I'll hand it over to you guys to say whatever you want to say. And hopefully, I mean, we didn't go into a grave amount of detail or anything, but I'm hoping that people are really understanding this and saying, you know, you can, as in the case of the city, lower the mill and return the increase in tax revenue that's collected back to the taxpayer with a property valuation increase by lowering the mill.
What you're talking about is trying to maintain a revenue neutral rate.
Yes, but at the same time,
and see, that's the frustration I have is that folks that talk in these terms They don't understand what they're asking, and that's what they're asking.
Yeah.
They're asking
For you to spend no more money this year than you spent last year.
correct.
Okay. Now, that might be... Okay,
So if you want to do that, the Rec Commission is a beautiful, beautiful group to take a look at here, because they basically have a capped mill levy, and I think it's at like 8.5. They don't actually. They're not. They're a pass through from the school budget. So when the school board figures out its budget and says they're going to levy whatever they're going to levy, you need to add about 8.5 on top of that mills, because the Rec Commission goes in with them. Now, because they're kind of capped on their mill levy, when the assessed evaluations go up, they bring in more money. And that is how they are able to, at times, keep up with inflationary pressure. You have people out there who think that they should lower their mill levy because they're bringing in more per mill. But if they do that, when you can pick it. Let's pick something big. When the indoor pool needs work done to it and it ain't going to be cheap, well, guess what? We don't have the money for that. We're going to close it. If you go several years down the road doing business this way, you at some point are going to have to take a look at your largest budget expenditure. Annual budget expenditure. Andy knows what it is. It's people.
Which provides services.
Correct.
So when we talk about services...
So when you stand there and say to... And you can pick an organization. County. They could have not increased their mill levy this year. The county did. And there's a county commissioner that's on record as saying this. He said it on Tuesday. That the only real reason that they raised their mill levy by about 0.77 was in order to hire 2 sheriff's deputies. Well, if you want to keep your mill levy flat or you want to drop it, say goodbye to those guys.
But they've been needing that. And, Chad has made the case. And I love Chad.
A lot of ground out there.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
And I love, catch the updates with Chad. If you don't, it's very informative. It justifies the cost. That way the public knows what it is that the sheriff's department is doing. You can watch the meetings. A lot of people don't. You can catch an update. That's probably easier. It's focusing just on that rather than the whole meeting or whatever. But Chad made the case. He went to the public and he made the case.
That's Chad Gay, by the way.
Chad
Just
Gay,
want to make sure people understand.
Harvey County Sheriff Chad Gay. Yeah, it's not Chad. The other Chad. Okay, the other Chad that I love. Okay, so, and then there's the elephant in the room. And we're coming to the end of the program. We try to discuss these topics that you can never discuss in an hour. But okay, we could have spent all hour just talking about this. But the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, for whatever the reason, and you got to just say it. People have got to know this. Damn near 30% of our property evaluation is not taxable. Okay? So if you have a property evaluation that goes up or is at a certain level, that they're levying mills in order to create the revenue taxes in order to provide services, 30% of that's taken off the top. So then that goes and has to be spread out amongst the 70%. So until we do what needs to be done, which is what I believe our Harvey County Economic Development is doing a fabulous job at, what I believe the city of Newton is doing a fabulous job at, what I think the commission understands at this point in time and they're doing a fabulous job at, is if we don't capture the increase in revenue that we've received through property valuation and not decrease the mill, then we will not have the money to invest to ensure that we are paving a way for there to be industry and commercial that comes into our community, therefore pays higher taxes, therefore offsets the 30% that we do. It's the highest in the state. Arguably, I'm going to say that the elephant in the room that Newtonians have got to consider. They've got to consider
all of
this.
Harvey County has to consider
All of
this.
Harvey County has to consider this, right? But Newton specifically needs to think, Newtonians have got to keep in their purview, look, part of the reason that we are in this situation has to do with an extremely high, arguably extremely high, nonprofit sector. Okay, guys, anything you want to say on that? We are coming to the end, so I want to ask for final words, but if you want to say anything more on that, if you think we should cover it more next week, whatever we need to do to inform people and educate people the best way that we can in our community about what's going on.
I think you hit the nail right on the freaking head. And you know, for the Board of Education, let's talk about what some of those things are that are in that 30%. Okay? So just drive up along Anderson Avenue up through North Newton. There's a heck of a lot of really nice residential property that's all tax-free. Okay? Now, I'm a grad, and I'm not saying we should tax them. Bethel College, tax-free. Property tax-free.
And can you imagine the valuation on that?
Mennonite Central States. There's another one.
Would you say cumulatively that
These are and in the case of like commercial properties, their tax rate is higher than the residential tax rate.
Industry even higher.
Industry is even higher. Now, I mean, I don't know how all the tax structures work out at the Newton City Airport, but you've got a tax-free organization that's operating a flight school at the Newton City County Airport. I mean, over and over and over again. Let's talk about what these things are, because 30% is a huge number. My pet peeve, and I'm not the only one with this pet peeve, and at least one of the people with this pet peeve actually has a vote in the legislature that could do something about it. My pet peeve is when you see, and they're all doing it, when you see a nursing home that's turning itself into a real estate developer and building housing normally right next to or even a part of their campus. And it's just housing. The structure of those things is obscene, and it's all on the tax-free roll. Yeah. And it's driving me nuts. If we want to get to that 30%, some of these things we have to deal with, and they have to be dealt with at the state level. You know, the Board of Education, the City Commission, the County Commission, they can't just willy-nilly go to, pick one. They can't go to nursing home A and say, you know what, we've had enough. Your nursing home property, we're okay with that being tax-free. That was the intention of giving you the tax-free status for that. But this here housing that you're renting out, that does not go with the spirit of what was intended when that was made tax-free. So that's going on the rolls. The city, county, school board, they can't do that. The state's got to take care of that.
And you're talking in the millions of dollars.
Yes.
Millions of dollars.
Millions. Okay. Think about that. It is 30% of our property is not taxed. They do not pay property taxes. And we're not talking about stuff that's been abated because it's been built within the last 10 years. We're talking about just flat out tax free.
And will be forever. Yeah. Okay. Anything to add to that or last word?
Have a great week.
Okay. Chad?
Last word?
Last word.
Last word, to go a little bit personal, I'm healing. And when you see me out and about, just give me some grace, because I'm healing. And yesterday I had an experience that just really enforced I'm healing, and it's going to take a while.
Well said. Well said. I wanted to put this out. I have some very in-depth, deep discussions with my oldest son. We're both of the same faith, obviously. So I just want to say this. Never forget that just as God has always worked through people to carry out his will, the same is true for the devil. Look out, everybody.